Hello and welcome back to the Vintage Baseball Corner. I'm Chris. Today we're going to do a 76 card reveal on vintage cards from PSA. I'm actually going to break this up into two videos. So we'll do the first ones through 1974 and the rest of them from 75, 76, and a few in the late 70s. So we've got a large grouping from 75 and 76 for you. Here's our box. I'm going to crack it open here in just a sec. Finish getting set up and we'll be right back to get started. All right, we are set up with some of our friends from the early 60s overlooking the action. We've got 4 boxes to open here real quick. I'm going to separate those for the 2 videos and be right back. Here are all 76 cards. Today we're going to tackle the 2 stacks on the left. And be sure to stay until the end, as we've got 6 or 7 football cards from the late 60s and 70s, namely Joe Namath and Bart Starr. So we'll have a little football bonus at the end here. The 2 stacks on the right are 75s and up to 79, and we will tackle those in the next video, which I'll shoot here shortly after I finish this one. Let's get started. All right, let's get to some cards, but I have a couple of quick notes first. First of all, I do want to thank you for joining me. If you haven't seen one of my videos or been to my channel before, I'm going to show you the PSA cards. We're going to reveal the grades that we got, but I'm also going to stop and mention some stories or some facts on occasion about players or something that you might not have known or might not have remembered. I'll try to keep it as short as possible, but the style that I have with this channel is to really talk about history and share information on players and on baseball, and especially from the vintage era. I also want to give a quick shout out to Phil over at the YouTube channel I Love Baseball Cards. Phil's a really great guy, has a huge passion for cards. He likes to open a lot of cards on his channel, but he also just did a blind PSA reveal. And now this reveal is not blind. He did a true blind reveal and got unbelievable grades. He was extremely happy with it. I would have been ecstatic if I were him, and it's worth a look. So I'll include his information in the notes below. As far as this one goes, I believe this is actually a very, very good sub. There are a couple little disappointments here and there. And lastly, keep in mind this is part 1 of 2. And that we'll do the mid to late 70s in a separate video here coming up soon. All right, let's get to some cards. All right, our first card is a Mantle Blast 565-foot home run from 1961. This one got a PSA 7, got a really nice grade on it. I was kind of looking at it at the 6 range, thinking there was a little bit of a downside to possible 5, and you know, with a hope for a 7, and we got the 7, which is great. It's a really nice looking card. It's pretty well centered. It's not perfectly centered, but it's pretty well centered. And this, for the longest time, was by most considered the longest home run ever hit. The home run left the ballpark, landed across the street, and was just considered a mammoth blast. Babe Ruth also had a huge home run in 1921 that people have talked about for years. And we can't forget Reggie Jackson's 1971 All-Star Game home run, where he hit the light standard on the top of the roof at Tiger Stadium. Who knows where that ball would have landed if it cleared the roof and went out of the ballpark. Just a huge, huge home run. Before we go to the next card, I do want to mention there's one other home run that people talk about a lot. It was in 1987 in a Denver Zephyrs AAA game. The Zephyrs played their home games at old Mile High Stadium in the thin air of Denver, Colorado. Joey Meyer, a prospect for the Brewers, Joey hit a blast in a game that landed in the upper deck of left field at old Mile High Stadium to the point the camera person couldn't even get up high enough to see exactly where the ball landed. It was just a major, major blast. And it's definitely something worth taking a look at. One of the interesting stories about that night is that the Zephyrs had just received a player from Baltimore in a trade, And when he reported that for that game, he had some bats from Cal Ripken, which is normal. Minor leaguers often they'll get bats from major league players, and that's pretty normal thing to have. And for I don't know how the conversation started, but he and Joey decided to switch bats that night, and he gave Joey one of Cal's bats, and Joey gave him one of his. The huge home run that Joey hit was actually his second of 3 home runs that night. And believe it or not, he hit 29 home runs in 1987, but still hit 311. So he wasn't a Rob Deere or Dave Kingman all or nothing type. The funny part of the story is the next day he went to the plate with that bat again and cracked it on the first at bat and was never able to use it again. So that bat was retired with 1 game and 3 home runs, one including possibly one of the longest home runs ever. So I thought that was interesting. Joey did play for the Brewers and had at least 1 card in 88 or 89 tops. I'm not sure off the top of my head with that. So let's get back to some more cards. Next up, we've got a Post Mickey Mantle. This came with Post cereals. This is a poor one. Most of these that you'll see are either authentic or very low grade. There are 3 types of these postcards. The ones that came off the cereal box have a blank back, and then 2 others, as you can see, this has from a Life magazine ad, and I'll show you the back here. And there were 2 different kinds of these. One that was hand cut, which is this one. Another which had perforated lines to where you could tear out along the perforation. And so there are 3 different kinds, and they are all designated differently, as you can see on the 3rd line below Mickey's name on the PSA labels. Next, we've got the Reds Heavy Artillery. We've got a PSA 6 on this card. Again, really nice card. Stands the test of time, nicely centered. This shows Reds hitters Vada Pinson, Gus Bell, and Frank Robinson. The three of these players had 22 All-Star game appearances and over 7,500 hits between the 3. And yet Frank Robinson is the only Hall of Famer of the group. But let's let that sink in. 7,500 hits from those 3. Just really, really, really good players. And Pinson and Bell aren't guys that you hear about every day because they did not quite get to the Hall of Fame. One other quick note on Bell. He is the beginning of 3 generations of the Bell family. He was the father of Buddy Bell, who played for the Rangers and Indians for many years, and the grandfather, current Reds manager David Bell, and Mike Bell, who also got a short stint in the major leagues. So we got 3 generations of Bells here represented on this card. Next up, we're going to stay in 61. We've got a Ted Kluszewski, another huge red slugger, though by this point he had been traded off to the White Sox, and got a PSA 5 on this. Again, just another nice card, well-centered, just presents really, really well. Kluszewski was a huge slugger, and he's known for, I believe, his 57 card, where he is wearing the sleeveless jersey, and they did actually wear those in games. They're basically like vest-like jerseys, so he's hitting with his pipes exposed, and he had some pipes. There's no doubt about that. Next, we got a Warren Spahn. This is an EX Mint 6, another very, very nice card here. I've talked about Warren Spahn in previous videos, so I'm not going to repeat those facts. You know, he's one of the best pitchers in baseball, but there is a story that I think needs to be told and that is worth discussing. In 1963, Warren Spahn faced Juan Marichal in a game on July 2nd, with 2 Hall of Famers facing off against each other. The game went extra innings, and both Warren Spahn and Marichal both pitched a full 16 innings. And the game was won by the Giants as Willie Mays hit a solo home run in the 16th inning off Warren Spahn to take the loss. But 16 innings from each starter. The word is that they were going to take Marichal out. And basically Marichal told his manager, as long as he's in the game, pointing at Spahn, I'm staying in too. I ain't coming out. So they battled through, and ultimately the Giants won 1-0. What I think is even more remarkable, is that 5 days later, on 4 days rest, that was the 16-inning game was on a Tuesday. On Sunday, Spawn makes his regular start in the rotation and throws a 9-inning complete game shutout, beating Houston 4-0. So there was no extra rest needed. Let's go 16 innings one day, and we'll come back and throw a shutout 4 days, 5 days later with our regular 4-day rest. It's just amazing, especially with how baseball has changed. You just don't see things like that anymore. Spawn was very durable. I believe he pitched 259 innings that year, and that was his second lowest total going back to, I believe, 1948. So between 48 and 63, 259 was his second lowest innings total from that span. All right, next up, we're going to hit a Hall of Fame manager in Al Lopez. This is a 1963. This is also an EX Mint 6. Lopez was a longtime manager for the White Sox. He also played 19 years in the big leagues. So his big league career spanned from 1928 through 1969. That's a long, long time to be in a big league uniform. But we got a 6 on Hall of Famer Al Lopez. And just to kind of note, these cards are a mixture of mine and a few friends. We kind of submit together. We all have different collecting styles. 95% of these cards are all going to be for PC, and the grades aren't as important as just getting the cards slabbed and preserving them and having them in your PC. Another Hall of Fame manager is Casey Stengel. We got a PSA 5 on this one in EX. Stengel was a longtime manager of the Yankees, where they won 10 pennants, 7 World Series, and was famous for that run in the 50s and 60s with the Yankees. He also briefly managed the Mets towards the end of his career, and I believe before he got to the Yankees, also managed the Dodgers and the Boston Braves for a brief time. So that's Casey Stengel, Hall of Fame manager, 1963. We got a PSA 5 there. Moving on, we've got Phil Linz. This is a guy I'd never heard of. My buddy James decided to get this graded. He picked it up cheaply. It was very nice shape. I really thought we actually had a shot at an 8 here. Got a 7. Not disappointed with that grade. The centering is off a little bit left to right, but it did qualify. I measured it. It would have qualified for an 8 on its own, but barely. That said, Linz was a middle infielder, mostly a reserve middle infielder for the Yankees in the early 60s. He was on 3 World Series teams, 62 through 64. Next, we're going to go back to Hall of Fame manager Al Lopez in a 1969. This one picked up a near mint 7. Again, this is one that I kind of had marked for a 6. Nice looking card. Just, you never know when you've got this old cards exactly where you're going to land. This was Al Lopez's final year. I will add that he did win 2 pennants as a manager, although he did not win a World Series, but is in the Hall of Fame as a manager. And this is kind of the back to, you have the different backs for manager cards in 1969, which were kind of cool. All right, next up, we've got a 1963 Bazooka Ernie Banks. It's got an authentic grade. These are hand cut cards, and they're really, really picky about the way the cards are cut. I think this one got into the lines a little bit too much. But it's a really nice looking card. The surface is good. The color is good. It's just all about the cut. In fact, I looked it up in the PSA Pop Report. 42% of all Ernie Banks cards from that year are graded and labeled as authentic. These cards came on the bottom of Bazooka gum boxes and typically came in a 3-card panel. As you can see, Ernie Banks is number 3. Mickey Mantle was card number 1. So you would see a panel of Mickey Mantle, Ernie Banks on the other side, and a player that I do not recall in the middle. These are blank back cards. Again, just This is a really, really nice looking card. It's a shame that we couldn't get a number grade on it, but at the same time, that's pretty common with these hand-cut cards like that. We have a 1962 Manager's Dream. We all know this card, Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, two of the best outfielders ever. This is a VG3, and it's the corners and edges show the wear here. I had this down as a 2 or a 3, and we got the 3, so we're going to take that. I think an iconic card, pairing up two of the best to ever play, and both playing center field, same position. Now we're going to do a quick run, Roger Maris run of several cards here, so we won't go off path too much here. This is a 1962. We got a good 2 on this one. Again, this one is all corners and edges, just general wear from that age of a card. But it's a 1966 PSA 2 for Roger Maris. Next up is a 68 Roger Maris. We got an EX5 on this. This one looks really, really nice. It's centered pretty well. 1968 with the border, some people call it burlap type border, does tend to hide flaws fairly well. So, at arm's length, these cards look really, really sharp. The color on this one is good. But there is corner wear, and I don't know if you can see it or not, if I can get focused. But there is some fraying on the corners that give it the grade that it got. It does have excellent eye appeal. So, 1968, Roger Maris. Now we are going to bounce back here to 1961. This is a Roger Maris MVP card from 61. Got a 4, VGEX 4. Again, color's good. It's got that yellow fisheye on the right. Actually, 2 of them, one big one there. About the expected grade on that. No issues, qualms, or complaints there on that one. Next up is a 62 home run leaders that includes Maris, Mantle, Jim Gentile, and Harmon Killebrew. Got a VG3 on that one. And one thing that I like about these home run leaders cards is they show the home runs. I'm trying to keep the glare from me here, but of the home runs for players all the way down to, see if I can get my thumb away from there, down to 18 home runs. So you can see what a lot of different players did hit home runs that year. And these cards actually show how many grand slams certain players hit in that particular season. So I kind of like those. Those are pretty neat. Even though I'm not a big fan of the floating heads. All right. I believe this is our last Roger Maris. This is a 62. We got a miscut on this, which we expected as the card was kind of cut right into his name there. I was kind of hoping for a 4 or maybe even a 5 miscut on this. Structure of the card's pretty solid. I didn't see the wear that there was on some of the other cards. I was kind of hoping for a little bit better grade. And here's the back on that one. So we got a 62 Roger Maris there, a 3 miscut. All right, next up we are going to go to Roberto Clemente from 1969. We got a VGEX4. Again, nice card. It's got the standard kind of corner and edge wear. Color's good. No creases. Nice eye appeal. For one of the game's all-time greats. We have another Roberto Clemente, and I'm not going to call him Bob. This one is a 68. This one also got a 4. And this one looks really, really nice. Again, it goes back to 68s, can kind of hide some flaws. The color just really jumps out at you. The card's pretty well centered and just really pops. And as you get up close, you can just see some of the corner wear, and they're frayed a little bit. But that hides pretty well with that border. So that's a very, very nice looking Roberto Clemente in a 4, which is a fair grade on that card. Now we're going to dump back to 1962 and go to a Warren Spahn. We got a VG3 on this one. This one had some surface wear, and corner touches. I don't think it had any creases in it, but still there was general wear to it. So a 3 was, I figured a 4 was our best shot. It's got a nice, again, of the winningest left-handed pitcher of all time in Warren Spahn. And now we will go to 1961. This is a World Series card. Game 2, 1961 1960 World Series, a 61 card. Mano slams 2 home runs. This card's really nice. Color's great. I don't think we're going to be able to see it, but there's just a little bit of an indentation, kind of like almost like half of a fingernail there on the surface, kind of near his bat, and just the tiniest of wrinkles. Again, probably not even a quarter of an inch long right there, and I'm really casting some shadows, and I apologize for that. But general eye appeal solid on it. I knew 4 would be the max grade on it because of those surface issues. But at the same time, I think that it looks better than that. That's more of a technical grade kind of issue there. And then there's a description of and information on Game 2 of the World Series from 1960. So, all right, now we're going to move this stack up here. All right, I went ahead and cleared the stands here so that we can throw some more cards up there. Next up is again, a 1961 card. This is an AL home run leaders. Again, with Mantle and Maris. Also have Jim Lemon and Rocky Colavito with this one. This one got an EX Mint 6. The centering is off top to bottom enough. Actually, it measured okay to be a 7. I thought we had an outside shot of a 7, but it was going to be just that, an outside shot. So a 6 was pretty much the odds-on grade there. I didn't think it would drop to a 5, and that's exactly what we got. So I picked that one up and the World Series card, the one we just looked at, both together in an auction somewhere. I don't recall exactly where. Picked them up both pretty cheaply, and I'm glad to have those graded. Next is possibly the best card of the whole submission for me. This is a 1969 Ernie Banks and a PSA 8. This card is just absolutely beautiful on the front. It is centered well, which is very difficult for 69s. The color pops. The surface was good. It just really jumps out at you. One of my fears with this card, and actually I was thinking that it was more like a 6 or a 7, is those of you who have collected 69s know that the back of the cards, some of them are very pink and bright pink. Some of them are more faded or pale, if you will. This one is definitely on the pale side, and I really worried that maybe that might hurt the grade a little bit. So I kind of tempered my expectations. But we got the pale pink instead of the bright pink. But still, at this point, this is a really nice card, and I am extremely happy to own it. I'm going to go ahead and stick Ernie right there in the middle. Next up is a different card. It's called New Card Baseball Scoops. This one is our highlight cards. They highlight different events and things, accomplishments. This is from 1961. Willie Mays makes greatest catch. Obviously, we can debate whether that was his greatest catcher or not, but it was probably one of his biggest plays, considering there was an extremely fast runner on second, and he got the ball back in quickly enough to not allow the runner to tag up and score all the way from second base in a tie game late in the World Series. This one got a EX5. I had it at between a 5 and a 6. It's really nice. The corners are just a little bit soft. And again, I don't know how well you can see that, how I can get focused. I think 6 would have been a very generous grade, but at the same time, I thought that was a shot at it. It's not worth a whole lot of money, but it's centered really well. I think it's a good-looking card, and it's something that I am happy to add to my collection. All right, next up. This is a 1962 Harmon Killebrew and a Near Mint 7. Again, another really nice card. Now, I got to give a shout out to my buddy George Dell on this. I don't know, a year or so ago, George sent me this card and gave it to me. We were talking about different players and different things, and he sent it to me and said, "Hey, I got a nice Killebrew that you might like." And he knows that I'm trying to kind of work on Hall of Famers from 1962. And so he sent it to me and gave it to me. It's been sitting around waiting and finally got it graded, but it's just a really, really nice card. Nicely centered. Nice corners. Very, very, very happy to have that. Very appreciative of George for being kind enough to do that. So we got a near mint 7 in a Harmon Killebrew from 1962. Next up is another near mint 7. This is a Roberto Clemente All-Star from 1968. You know, I just kind of had that hope of a 7 on my grade list, but I really was expecting a 6. I was just figured that's where it was going to land. You know, I was kind of hoping that maybe we'd get the benefit, and we did. And a lot of these cards either hit on the expectations or actually they hit right into the hope column. So again, pretty solid and happy with this submission as a whole. But the back of these cards have, they're part of a puzzle. And but it's nice to have a Roberto Clemente in a near mint 7. So I like that a lot. The color on that again is really, really nice. We'll stick Roberto here as well. Actually, let me see if I can do it this way. We'll just double him up and sit him sideways like that. All right. The next two cards, you're going to see some differences in what I would consider the technical grade versus general wear. This is a 1971, an Al Kaline. It's a VG3. I feel a little shortchanged on this. I felt like that a 4 would be the minimum. I thought I could get as high as a 6. I'll tell you, I will look. You're not going to be able to see it now, but there was... When I looked at the surface, there was kind of a change in the light reflection. Almost like it changed levels ever so subtly. And so, I kind of looked at that, thought maybe there was just a little bit of a bend there. Didn't crack the surface. Nothing on the back to indicate it. Obviously, they must have seen the same thing and they hit us with a 3. But otherwise, this baby's pretty darn nice. I mean, it's got some wear on the corners, but what 71 doesn't? So from an eye appeal standpoint, this one is really, really nice, and we get a 3. Next up, we got Hank Aaron in a 2. But as you can see very quickly, the amount of wear on this one is drastically different from the K-line. So this is more about the card being graded based on general wear, whereas the K-line is more about one technical flaw that brings the grade down. Still, it's a Hank Aaron. My buddy James is a huge Braves fan, and he's going to get every Hank Aaron that he owns slabbed, and I think that's a good call for him. But a PSA 2 on this Hank Aaron. And next up, we have a very similar Roberto Clemente from 71. This one is a 1.5. See, that top left corner is a little bit worse. But again, mostly corner and edge wear. I think this one actually did have a little bit of a crease in the lower left section. I don't think we can get to it. Maybe we can see it on the back. I'm not sure. But I love the backs of these. I love the 71 cards. All right, we're almost done with the baseball portion of this group. This is a 1972, again, Clemente. Got a little bit of a theme here. 1972 Game 4 World Series. It's a near mint 8. It's a really, really nice card. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought we had a good shot at a 9 here. This card is every bit as nice as many of the 9s that I've gotten for my 75 set. Just really, really nice looking card. I picked this one up pretty cheaply on eBay from a seller that I had bought before. And his cards are usually pretty sharp, and his self-grading is pretty darn spot on. So I was happy to pick this one up, and actually a little disappointed we got an 8. But I mean, how disappointed can you be with a near mint card from 1972? And the last of the baseball cards is a World Series card from 74. This is Game 6. I've got another 8 on this one. And this one While his name is not on it, this is Reggie Jackson hitting. Shows him taking off out of the box. So this is kind of one of those hidden player cards. It's not an official Reggie Jackson card, but that is Reggie there on the screen, and that is a really, really nice near mint card as well. And again, on the back we have information, the box score from that game. So that wraps up the baseball cards. We have a handful here of football cards that I want to kind of go through with you, and we'll get this thing finished up here very quickly. We got Joe Namath, 1968, and a VGA 3. 68 tops. We have two 1970s for Mr. Namath. This one is a VGEX4, and as is this one. But 1970 Joe Namath, Broadway Joe in a 4. Next up, I'm going to actually come back to that one. We have a 71 Topps game, which obviously is similar to the 1968 game that they did in baseball. This one got an EX Mint 6. I never really know how to predict the grades on these with the rounded corners, and the centering is usually kind of wonky too. But we got a nice 6 on this Joe Namath. And we have another 1960 or 71 game, a Bart Starr and a near mint 8. That's just a really nice card. This one is still a little off center left to right, but again, these are just some different cards. The back of them looks like kind of a playing card deck. But we got a near mint PSA 8 Bart Starr. Thought that was pretty cool. And the last two are more Joe Namath, the 1971 second game card. This is an EX5, so we had a 5 and a 6 on the game here. And the last card is the 1972 Joe Namath. This one is a PSA 4, and shows Joe with the hair flowing in the wind, and where Joe became famous for predicting and winning the World Series against the Baltimore Colts. All right, that's all we got for cards. Please come back and join me for part 2. If you liked the video, please like it, smash that thumbs up button, and also subscribe to the channel so that you'll be notified when we come back for the next video, which will be very, very soon. Again, I thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. I hope that you have been entertained, and I will look forward to spending time with you again soon. Have a great rest of your day.